Welcome to the EchoCast, episode 74. I am Bon Diesel. I do things with Division and Division 2. Basically just Division 2 now. This is a podcast about the Division 2, news, updates, community things, and my thoughts on all of those. Today, no state of the game recap, because we haven't had one. I'm going to have talking about return of state of the game, some games I'm currently playing and waiting for, what I think the upcoming specializations could be, some listener questions, and personal and content updates. If you would like to support this podcast and my other content, please check out patreon.com/theechocast. Thanks to Jose, Luis, Jimmy, Mike, November, Hassan, Tim, Jim, and Ozzy for helping support the show and my content. If you are new to the Patreon, or you're a current patron, let me know and I will send you some swag, and I'll make you a VIP on Twitch. I just need your Twitch name. So this is normally where I would do the state of the game recap, but we do not have that yet. On that note though, apparently during a live stream in the last week or so, Hamish kind of gave a maybe we'll hear some news about state of the game soon. And then Chris Gansler kind of confirmed-ish that we might, but that apparently something had come up recently that may push back state of the game for a little bit. So there's that. There's a new Division 2 Twitch reward if you go on there for the little free cosmetic drops that we're getting on there. This time it looks like it's swag for the Washington football team that they have in there. Something to consider is that we know that the ETF, the Elite Task Force Echo, will be taking place at the beginning of September, which is only a couple of weeks away now. So my guess is that we're probably going to have a state of the game, if not next week, probably the following. They may talk about what the goal is of ETF, but from my knowledge of other ones, the ETF tends to cover a pretty broad spectrum pretty quickly. So while they definitely, I'm sure, talk about some newer stuff, like stuff that's coming soon, I think they also, at least I'm under the impression that they've talked about things that are way in the future as well. So that said, I suspect that the next state of the game is probably going to give us hopefully some thoughts or some info on title update 6, which we are all kind of anticipating to be a PvP / loot / RNG kind of redo 2.0 update. But maybe it won't be. We don't really have anything confirmed at this time. That said, I actually don't believe that the ETF is going to focus on it that much. I've talked about this before. I think that I'm sure they'll cover it in some capacity, but I think that this is probably what they've been working on for the last month or plus, probably longer. And while I'm sure they'll get ETF input, I suspect it's going to be more down to a PTS probably happening, I would say, in early September, with title update 6 actually releasing late in September. But we'll have to wait and see, because if you look at the calendar, you look at the content calendar, we should have a title update 6 probably coming out, in October, or not title update 6, episode 2, which I assume will be title update 7. I would say October, I'd say November at the latest, because then we're expecting episode 3, the New York return, to be in January, February, maybe March, but March will be pushing into a year 2 of DLC. So we'll have to wait and see. So while we've been waiting for all of that, and I've been holding a little baby and watching her late at night while we've been trying to figure out how to sleep again, I've been playing some other games, and it's been kind of nice. It's been a nice little break. The most I think I've been playing is actually Remnant, which is kind of a Dark Soulsy casual version game. It honestly kind of reminds you a little bit of Division. It's like if Division was a Souls type of game. There's a lot of focus on melee in it. It's kind of hard to explain what it is. It's basically a Dark Souls game that I find to be pretty casual but still really challenging. I'm definitely in a spot right now in the game where I'm pretty frustrated. I don't know how to get by it. I don't think my gear is just powerful enough, so I'm needing to grind that a little bit. But Remnant, it's $40. I highly suggest at least checking it out. For me, it's been a nice, refreshing kind of something else to play. It doesn't look amazing. It plays pretty well. The gunplay is actually pretty solid in it. I don't know. I would take a peek at it yourself and see what you think. I also started playing some Vigor, which is a post-apocalyptic PUBG-ish game. It's not like just one person can win. It's if you played Escape from Tarkov, if you've played DayZ sort of, but Tarkov is probably the best comparison, where you go into an instance with a bunch of other people. You can exit immediately and not die. You can do a little bit of foraging for supplies and stuff like that and then leave, or you can try to go for supply drops and all, and you really dig in and try to find a bunch of guns and equipment and all that. And what you're doing with all this stuff is you're taking it back to your home base and upgrading it so you can do more there. And you're doing these expeditions to go out and collect guns and gear and bullets and all this stuff. But there's always the chance of dying to other players or to killing other players. Vigor is an interesting one. I know on Xbox it's free to try. I don't know if it's on PC or PS4. And I didn't really research it, so I suck. But Vigor, if you have an Xbox at least, you can try it for free, and I plan to keep playing it. I will say I've been playing Apex again. I've been playing the solo mode. I've gotten, my handful of top 10, a couple top 5 ends, but I just can't finish a stupid game in that game. I always just crumble at the end, and it's not like I'm just hiding and, getting killed by actually good players. I mean, I've been getting a few kills a game and doing well. It's just when it comes down to those top, 5 or 10 people in each instance, I'm just not as good. So I'm probably gonna keep playing that, especially while the solo mode is up. I've really enjoyed it. It's pretty terribly balanced. It doesn't seem like they did a lot of extra work to make the solo mode actually good. But despite that, it's still pretty fun, at least for me. The other game I've been playing a decent amount of is actually FIFA 19. Believe it or not, I love soccer. I played soccer my entire life. I played in high school and college, and up in the last I know, I still held the record for the most goals scored at my high school. That's probably been beaten by now. The teams are much better now than they used to be. We used to be really bad. I just happened to score a lot of goals. I really like soccer. I know FIFA's got its issues. I've literally never even opened up the mode where you buy the cards. Ultimate Team, I think. I've never even opened it. So I stay away from that. I just play seasons, or I play exhibition games. I basically always try to find the lowest league I can find, or like a lower league, and take kind of crappy team and try to make it better. So right now I believe I'm in like the 2nd or 3rd division of the Premier League in England, and I'm playing with a team that I can't remember the name of off the top of my head, but it's been fun kind of improving that team and making them better and getting to play. But FIFA is something I've been playing a lot. Ollie Norris wants to play against me on stream at some point, which I'll have to take him up. The problem is that I'm real average at FIFA, and I assume he probably has played more than me. I know all the basic controls pretty well, and I can do some things, but basically if he has any advanced knowledge of the gameplay and mechanics, I'm probably screwed. And the game I'm the most excited for coming up is definitely Call of Duty. I'm interested in Borderlands, but honestly I didn't like the first 2 Borderlands, so I'm not really expecting to like this new one. There's a few games on my radar, but Call of Duty with that 2v2 mode, the big giant, like 20v20 or 40v40, whatever it is. But especially just kind of the regular Call of Duty multiplayer. The thought of bringing them, having like Search and Destroy coming back and all that stuff, has got me pretty pumped. The game looks gritty, it looks competitive, it looks you know, it looks like if you can end a game and feel like you were better than other people or worse. And that's what I'm looking for. I've done a lot of talking about like the division and the PvP in the division and how I just don't get what people want out of it. That it seems like some people just want to, you know, be OP and just crap on other people in the DZ. It seems like some people want to change it into a Rainbow Six class-based game. I just don't, I don't know. At this point, I don't even know what I want from PvP in the division. But what I do want is the PvP I'm seeing in Call of Duty. And I cannot wait to bring that into my repertoire. As well as a bunch of other stuff. I've always really enjoyed the Call of Duty stories. I've always, it seems like they're going to have some PvE like challenge mode type of things, but it's more of like an open world. It's been kind of dabbled on. I don't know if they've really gone into it. But it seems like there's going to be, you know, kind of an expanse thing. And, you know, hate me if you want. I don't really care at this point. I would love to see this new Call of Duty with its aesthetic and the way that the guns work and all that. I would love to see a BR. They've been real tight-lipped about that. They've kind of been dismissive of it. But I think it's probably going to be a thing. So Call of Duty, you know, they're doing this stupid PlayStation 4 only beta this weekend, which is just so insanely dumb to me. You know, Sony just keeps doing these things, and I'm sure Microsoft does it too, where it's just, I really just feel like Sony's still treating the game industry like it's 2005, and they're so focused on, you know, single player 20-hour, you know, really good experiences and paying lots of money to have exclusive stuff to them. But, you know, Xbox has done it too. It just seems like it goes more one way than the other. Regardless, I'm sure that I believe there's a beta coming up relatively soon for all platforms of Call of Duty. And I really can't wait to play the beta. I've already pre-ordered. I'm happy to admit it. I can tell that it's a game I'm gonna play, and I honestly can't wait. The last little topic here, gaming news, is so that a bunch of people have been getting named as the Ghost Recon Breakpoint Delta company members. I know, you know, a few of the ones I'm aware of are Uber Tim, NGN, and a bunch of other people. Congratulations to everyone who got selected. I will say I applied. I kind of had a feeling I wasn't gonna get picked. I've been needless, you know, in a very conservative statement, I've been a bit rough on Wildlands, and as much as I can without breaking any NDAs or anything with Breakpoint, I've been rough on Breakpoint, talking about what they've shown publicly. While I wait for them to give us a beta, so I can talk about, you know, what's actually in the game otherwise and my issues with other parts of the game, assuming they show them publicly and I can comment on them. But I will say I'm still a little bummed I didn't get picked. I made a post today on Twitter that I assume probably didn't get taken great by everyone, but I hope that most people understood what I was getting at. But this Delta company thing is interesting. When they announced it, I think people from like a division standpoint saw it as like, wondered if it was going to be like an ETF or something. But what I really encourage people to do is go back and look at it closer. And when I say what I'm about to say, I don't mean it in like a negative way, but it's a fan club. It's a fan club for, I think, for them to feature people and say, hey, this is a Delta company member. They love this game, and here's them doing things. So I believe that they have like different kind of different, you know, groups. So they're gonna have people who are like cosplayers and do art and stuff like that. They're gonna have a group that's like streamers and video makers, and then it's just, you know, they have these different groups. And what I'm gonna be really curious about is if anyone who's involved in it is going to take kind of like a critical aspect of the game. I'm sure that they are more than happy to let people say whatever they want and without fear of getting kicked out for the most part. I suspect they're also going to be very careful to pick people that they aren't worried about that being a thing. I caught, you know, I understand catching a little flack from people about me having this opinion, because, you know, it's kind of like a joke, or it's maybe not even a joke, of me being like a big Division fanboy. But what I will say, and what I've always said, is that, you know, anyone who actually consumes my content knows that I'm as critical of Division as anyone, but I'm also I will also praise the game more than anyone. I think that balance is essential, and I think it leads to a lot. You know, I think to have credibility, you have to be able to show both sides. At the end of the day, I think if someone was only negative, then I don't believe they actually like the game and they just enjoy complaining about something, and Division just happens to be it. But I also believe if you're only positive about a game, then maybe, you know, you're great for showing people things that you love, but maybe you shouldn't be thought of as you know, being credible and actually, you know, judging the game, you know, through your rose tinted glasses. So it seems like there's kind of a certain group that they're going for with this Delta Company thing. That said, you know, the NGN and Tim and, you know, some other people have been picked. I have no doubt that if there's things they don't like, they'll speak their mind. I'm curious to see how that's going to go. You know, I don't really think I deserve to get picked. One, I basically haven't been making much content lately. Two, I guess, you know, I could see that they may believe I've been overly critical of the game before it's even out. You know, I get it. It's fine. I really don't care about not getting picked. I probably wasn't really going to play much of this game anyways, especially with Call of Duty coming out. But I'm just really hoping that we see some people crop up in the group who are kind of willing to say, hey, this game is a lot of fun, I really enjoy it, but, and you know, when the game comes out in beta or when it actually releases, I've got lots of buts to talk about. Though I will say they just announced that they're going to have dedicated servers for PvP, which is amazing. Having peer-to-peer servers on a PvP game that is supposed to be taken seriously at all, like Wildlands, peer-to-peer is just, it's where we're past that. That shouldn't be a thing anymore. But you know, it's gone, so that, you know, praise be to Ghost Recon Breakpoint. They finally did it. It's just I'm curious to see how Delta Company will come. I've kind of noticed that, you know, the CMs of this game are very focused on a certain part of the community, and I haven't seen a lot of reply to the people who have had concerns about choices that are being made in the game and stuff. I very well may just be missing it. It may be my fault. I'm happy to admit that. But long story short, I'm kind of curious to see how this game's going to release. There's, you know, I know plenty of people, and I see plenty of people who are basically going to love this game no matter what they do. They could release it, they could have 1 pixel per character, and it seems like they'd be excited about it, which is amazing. There's nothing wrong with that, except that I just think that there is room to say, hey, I really love this and this and this about this game, but man, why did they do this and that and the other? Or why didn't they fix this and that thing from Wildlands? But I will expand on that once I'm allowed. And I'll tell you what else I'm allowed to do. I'm allowed to send you to a mid-roll that's going to last roughly 60 seconds. So hang tight. Okay, so some community topics and discussion. I'm going to be real honest here. I may have talked about this stuff already, but I'm reaching. I'm trying to get these episodes at least 30 minutes, just so it's not just me talking for 5 minutes and then jumping off. The first thing I'm going to talk about is what I think the upcoming Division 2 specializations may be. You may want to remember that after the minigun, we still are expecting 2 more specializations. The minigun actually came before episode 1. So I wouldn't be surprised if we actually get the second specialization in title update 6 before episode 2 comes out, and then I suspect that we'll get the third specialization between episode 2 and 3. So probably, you know, in like December or something like that. We will have to wait and see. But what do we think it's gonna be? So I think from what we've noticed in the specializations so far, they're basically all weapons that a enemy has, you know, one of them. The exception kind of being the crossbow, but there are enemies that actually have bows. Both the Outcast and the Ambusher factions both have them. So my personal top guess is probably a rocket propelled grenade or an RPG. There is a True Sun named enemy or kind of officer who carries an RPG, so at least those mechanics are in the game already. I suspect that we're going to be able to use them. It's going to be kind of like a boss killer type of specialization. Something that someone pointed out that's a good thought though is that this next specialization is probably going to have talents and things that you unlock that helps out shotguns, because I believe basically every other weapon class has already been kind of covered by the 4 current specializations. So shotguns are probably the next one to get some love. I don't think we're gonna get a shotgun specialization. I could be wrong, of course, but that's just my guess. I don't know. RPG is the one that I don't know if I necessarily think it's the most likely. It's definitely the one I want the most. One that I've seen thrown out a lot is a flamethrower. Again, we have let's see, some of the big fat boy outcast have flamethrowers, and then there is the flamethrower unit on the outcast. That kind of harkens back to the cleaners from Division 1 a little bit. My only issue with the flamethrower is I'm kind of curious to how that would work for a player. I just have a feeling it may not be as fun as people may think it would be, but I could definitely be wrong. This is one I'm actually not a fan of. I don't really want it, but we will see. Now, harkening back to the bow I was talking about, I actually wouldn't be surprised if we get a bow. Now, I know we have a crossbow, so maybe a bow isn't really in the cards for maybe another, until year 2 or maybe never. But a bow would be fun, because honestly, in Warframe and even Destiny, and basically every game, Tomb Raider, every game I've gotten to use a bow in, it's one of my favorite weapons to use. So in Division, I actually wouldn't mind if a bow was a weapon, just a regular weapon, but that's probably too much to ask. So some type of bow, I think would be really cool, and I'm talking about one like a compound bow. I really don't know how they differentiate it from the actual crossbow we have. That one's focused on having the explosive bolts. Maybe a regular bow could have armor penetrating or something like that. I'm not sure, but I think it'd be cool. And my last one I want to guess is actually an H-car. This one I think is basically not going to happen, even though I'd say there's a chance this may pop in as a regular gun. The H-car is if you've ever heard of a BAR, or Browning Automatic Rifle. This was a World War II. It kind of got deployed in World War I, but mostly World War II. 30-06, 20-round magazine, fully automatic squad support machine gun. And it was just, if you've watched Saving Private Ryan or any World War II movies that involve the Americans, you've seen these dudes with these big chunky rifles. It's a BAR. So a company has modernized the BAR and made this just chunky, cool looking, tactical gun called an H-car. HCAR, if you want to look it up. I did a video on this on my YouTube. Look it up, it's Bon Diesel. I did a specialization speculation video. I had a little series where I did those for a while. And I suggested this as a possible specialization. Now, my issue is that this gun is essentially just an LMG. If anything, I would like this gun to just be a regular gun in the game. That would be kind of a mix of a rifle and an LMG. Really small magazine, but big damage. Maybe even the ability to do it single shot. You could use like a rifle or an LMG. I don't know. Probably getting too hopeful there. But the H-car I just think would be cool. Maybe you could fire, some special type of ammunition, like explosive ammunition or something like that, to really kind of put it over the top as a specialization. But again, this is the one I'm the least, I feel like is the least likely to happen, and is probably more likely to happen as a regular gun, if at all. And so I don't know. I honestly, I would love to be surprised. I would love for them to release the next 2 and me be like, oh crap, I didn't even think of that. Because honestly, that's kind of how I felt about the original 3. I mean, the sniper was kind of obvious, but I feel like the grenade launcher was a cool addition, and the crossbow I thought was really neat. So we will have to wait and see. And then the last little topic here I'm going to cover is something I've seen people talk a lot about, and I'm willing to kind of come clean or at least give my idea of. And it's talking about how there's a lot of people who just feel like there's nothing left to do in Division 2. So I've had this discussion. I've kind of thrown my thoughts out, but I don't think I've ever really done it on here. So here's what I think. I think for a lot of the people I interact with and follow and so on and so forth on Twitter, we've outplayed the content. I looked, and I'm around 400 hours of play. I've seen people with many more. I believe there's people with over 1,000 hours in this game already. which just blows my mind at this point. I haven't really played Division in any real sense in probably almost 2 weeks. I've logged on, I've done a few little things, but nothing significant. Now, obviously, a big part of that was I have a baby now, as of a little more than a week ago, so I'm a bit busy to say the least. But even more than that, I don't really have anything I need to do. I definitely have a few, some exotics I can grind for. I will be totally honest, I haven't finished the raid. I really don't intend to anytime soon. I just kind of can't be bothered, even though if there is an Xbox group who would like to carry me, but I'll be happy to help a lot. Let me know. But there's definitely a few things left for me to do, but I've kind of done most of what I'm not worried about. There's definitely commendations I want to work on. There's other stuff I want to do eventually. I just don't feel compelled to do it right now, obviously, because I've got other stuff going on. My thing is that I have 400 hours in this game. If I never touched it again, which is obviously not going to happen, I would feel like I got my $100 worth. I paid 100 for the season pass, whatever the middle edition was. I don't even remember. But I guess my whole thing is that it's okay that I've hit a wall for now. They've released large updates to this game, some significant addition. Whether people like it or not is up to them, but I still don't think you can argue that they haven't added significant things basically every month. They've done significant changes and fixes. Again, if you don't like them, that's fine, but you can't deny that they aren't releasing them, that they aren't doing them. This game, I included, can be outplayed. They aren't releasing new content every week. I don't, the people I interact with who work there seem to like their job. And while I would love for the game to get updated every week like Fortnite does, I'm also under the impression people who work there don't really love their jobs, at least not all of them, not all the time. And maybe the idea of crunch and stuff is different, there than it is at Massive. And while I would love new missions every week and I would love new things to do every single week, I just have kind of realized that that's not a thing. And something I talked about a lot, even before Division 2 came out, I talked about during Division 1, is there's not many games that are meant to be mained for like 8 hours a day every day for months and years. There's a few games out there right now that you could probably go and do that with, and that's great, but Division 2 isn't one of them, and I don't think they ever intended it to be. Of all the complaints I've seen about the Division 2, people saying that it just doesn't work. Well, that's false. The game works pretty well, but definitely needs to be worked on. But I've literally seen people say that the game is broken, I can't play it. It's like, well, that's not true. There's lots of things that are true about the Division in a bad way, and that's not one of them, at least in my opinion. Then you have, I just don't think that it's a good idea for anyone to pick a game and only play it until they hate it. And I feel like, Division 2 was in a weird spot. It burned a lot of people in the first game that played for a week or two and then never came back and never changed their mind about the game. Rightfully so. It was rough. The first game was rough when it came out. So you have those people who already had a negative outlook on Division 2 before it even came out. Then you have people who stayed involved in the game and really enjoyed it, like myself, even with their criticisms. And we're excited about Division 2. And we're willing to accept that Division 2 is not just going to be a Division 1.5. It's a pretty different game, both in good and bad ways. Then you have people who stuck with the game who, I think that there were people who were playing Division 1 who liked what Division 1 gave them from a community standpoint, but didn't really care for the game that much. And then when Division 2 came out, they had just kind of burned themselves out. And then I think there's just people who wanted Division 2 to be their opportunity to become a full-time streamer, and now they've used it to, as a stepping stone to getting attention by being negative and stuff like that. So there's all kinds of motivations for playing this game. And at the end of the day, in my opinion, I think any game that a few months after release can give, I would say, the average player at least 150, 200 hours of play, before they get completely bored. And if you like leveling characters, maybe, another 50, 100, 200 hours. or if you just enjoy the role of the game. I mean, like if I grinded out everything that's left for me to do, it'd probably take me 40 or 50 hours on top of what I've already played. Obviously I'm doing my screenshots and stuff like that, so that has a different, that's different for me than maybe some other people. But I guess my message at the end of the day with this game is that even I don't have a lot I want to do right now, and that's okay. I talked about those other games I've been playing because honestly, when I was playing Remnant, when I was playing Vigor, when I play Apex, and when I'm playing Call of Duty here in a while, I know I'm gonna have an itch to be like, oh, this is really fun. But man, I can't wait for some of that new Division 2, content. And then when I'm playing Division 2 again, I'm like, oh man, Call of Duty has a new gun they put out, or a new map, or a new mode. I think when people have 2 or 3 or more games that they're really excited about playing, that's when gaming is the best for the average person, including myself. I'm not trying to get partnered on Twitch anymore, at least not for now. I'm not trying to be famous. I'm not trying to be Ninja. I'm not trying to be anyone but just some dude who's a super fan of Division 2 and dabbles in some other games. And I think that puts me in a position with a lot of other people where if I have 2 or 3 games that I'm happy to start up at any given time, especially when they have new content, then that makes me a pretty happy dude. And so when I see these people who have just completely fixated on Division 2, even though it seems like they hate it, I really hope for those people, and if this includes you, try to find a game that makes you happy. Find a game that blows your mind. Remnant did that for me. Remnant was a game that I'm not a Souls game type of player, but this game made me so happy for the first, so many hours I was playing it. I'm a little frustrated right now, but that's because I'm not very good at it. But I'll keep pushing because now I feel challenged, So if you feel like you have nothing left to do in Division 2, it's okay. Find something. They're gonna have some new stuff out for us soon, I'm sure, and then we can all argue about whether it's good or not when that happens. Okay, 2 listener questions. One here from Makarot on the Discord. Makarot says, "Hey, congrats on the baby. Question: do you think the BTSU gloves will get nerfed due to all of the Seeker builds? I personally have been working on a Seeker build, and the BTSU gloves just made it so good. I keep wanting to make another build. It's just too fun, and it's easy to win." So I would assume, I don't know anything, but I would imagine that they wanted the gloves to be this good. I'll be totally honest, I haven't messed around in PvP too much in a while. I've heard that the gloves are, popular there, and that's okay. This game is about using skills, and just because some tryhard PvP people don't like to get killed by them doesn't mean skills shouldn't be popular. I would say ideally from a PvP standpoint, especially in conflict, I think it'd be really cool if there's like 2 people on each team who have really good skill builds and who can be threats with them, and maybe another one who has some good healing skills and can keep people alive, and then a few who are DPS based, and maybe even a sniper who can pop people down, instead of everyone just running the same build. I hope that the BTSU gloves don't get changed, or at least not significantly. If they're that powerful, I actually haven't really messed with them. I really like my electronics build, or I guess my skill build without them, but I guess I'm kind of curious to check them out now. So I don't think that they'll change them significantly, but we'll have to wait and see. The second question comes from a Patreon member, patron Jose. Jose says, "Hey Bon, congratulations on becoming a father. Best wishes to you and your family." Thank you, Jose. My question for the show would be regarding World Tier 6. Currently, I haven't been playing much of Division. What do you think the next update should include to bring back Division 2 fans? Personally, vault space and the amount of loot you carry should increase. Also, maybe fixing the dark zone. Would love to hear your thoughts. So we're breaking down 3 things here. What will be in World Tier 6? What will bring people back to Division 2? And fixing the dark zone. Or at least basically that's what we have here. So I guess the first thing I'll say is, again, with games like Destiny and Warframe and Division and some of these other games, is they're roller coaster games population wise, right? So when the game comes out, shit tons of people are playing. lots of content to do. People finish that content, they maybe back away, play something else. New content comes out, they come back, they play it, they leave, and it's just that cycle. So I think to get people back in Division 2, it's anything, literally anything, will get at least some people back. And if it's good things, lots of people come back. When it comes to World Tier 6, what I think it should be is what I assume it's going to be. I think World Tier 6, or is probably, there may be a World Tier 6 with Title Update 6, or even maybe Title Update 7. It seems like they dabbled with the idea of level 515 gear in the DZ until they decided that wasn't gonna be a thing. So they obviously have some intent to raise the gear score. I'm going to assume they're actually going to raise it to 600 when they raise it, just to make it a nice even number. And I think that is something that, obviously, if we raise the gear score, we're going to need a new world tier. I'm kind of curious to how we'll get to that world tier. And when the game came out, the way that you progress world tiers was by knocking out the fortifications, or of course I can't remember off the top of my head now, but like Roosevelt Island, the sports arena, and then eventually getting the tidal basin as the final one. I think we'll need that, but I think all of that combined with the changes to RNG and the loot, as well as the PvP. I mean, if they make some big drastic changes to PvP, whether it's like super normalization or classes, or just a complete change in the way gear is, or normalization, or getting rid of normalization, we'll have to see what they have with that. I think that World Tier 6 is probably gonna be a much bigger change than people imagine. Then your final comment there about vault space and stuff like that, I actually don't really have a problem with the gear space that we have right now. I have a problem with that, almost 99% of what I gather I just delete, or I deconstruct or sell. And I think if they figure out how to make the gear drop in a more attractive way while still keeping the grind valuable and fun, I think that actually storage space will be a much smaller issue. I still see a lot of bickering about the season pass was a lie because they didn't give us extra stash space. There's people not realizing that had they have done that, they would have been up Schitt's Creek with way more people than the few who are complaining about what they did. I just don't, maybe they'll give us more space. I hope they give it to everyone and we don't have to pay for it. But I think if people are filling up their space now, they'll fill it up later when there's more. So and then the final thing, I guess the final thing here about the dark zone, I mean, just saying fixing the dark zone is such a loaded question. I actually believe that the dark zone is a few reward loops and some PvP adjustments away from being pretty good, even though I'm sure plenty of people disagree with me. I really don't think the DZ is in as bad a shape as people think. I really think conflict is the PvP side that needs to be worked on the most, because I think it's the part of the game that the most people would be new to if it was better, where it's just not right now. I've seen people propose, again, like I said before, doing classes and stuff, kind of like Rainbow Six. I actually don't think that's the worst idea ever. I just don't think it's good for this game. I think if you remove the point of anyone gathering gear, that you just basically make it a side mode, I don't know. I don't think that's the vision, but maybe I'm just stubborn. I'd be curious to hear anyone else's thoughts. So thank you, Jose and Makarot, for your questions. If you have any questions, be sure to ask on my Twitter. I make a post every week giving you the opportunity to ask. Check out my Discord. There should be links somewhere on where you're listening or watching this. And you can also do it in the YouTube, or you can just basically anywhere you can find me. Go ahead and ask. Okay, final thing here, content update. So baby Diesel is here. If you haven't listened to the last podcast yet, my child was born last week, and we have had her home for a little over a week now. Or we've had her for over a week. She's almost been home a week. And she's doing great. There's been some very trying nights and trying days. We've been trying to figure stuff out. Who would have known that having a child is complicated and raising them is even more so? We think we're starting to get some kind of routine, we're kind of figuring out what this little human wants from us. But every time we think we know, we find out that we have no idea. But overall, I think we're starting to figure things out, sleeping schedules, and allowing each other to have some personal time as we can. trying to get back to some type of new normal. We had our first pediatrician's appointment, and actually we had a home health nurse come too. And little baby Diesel, she lost the amount of weight that they normally lose after they come out, and she's gaining it back as she's supposed to. So she's excellent. She's doing really well. For me, I'm heading back to work tomorrow. I'm recording this on a Thursday. So I'm kind of gonna wean myself back into work. At work, we're actually changing offices, and there's a whole bunch of stuff happening. So this is gonna be kind of a crazy time for me in general, which means that streams and stuff are gonna be a bit delayed probably, but I'll do them when I can. I promise. I really want to try to get a couple in this weekend, but we will have to wait and see. And then podcasts, we're good. Obviously the recording times may be a little weird. I wanted to do this on Wednesday, but I'm doing it on Thursday because reasons. I've got other priorities at the moment, and I will work on getting those in line. That's what I have this week. So if you want to support the podcast and my other content, please check out my Patreon at patreon.com/theechocast. If you're on iTunes, please rate the podcast and leave a review. If you're able to leave a review and or rate the podcast anywhere else, please do so. I really appreciate it. It helps me get noticed. I am Bond Diesel on Twitch and on Twitter, where you can catch my streams and you can hear my text vomit and my hot takes and all of that stuff on Twitter. So check me out there. You can also check out my non-opinion based Twitter account. That's the Division 2 Hub, at the Division 2 Hub on Twitter, where I share all of the cool things and news about the division with very little to none of my personal opinion, if you prefer that. So check it out. And that's all I have. So until next time.